Are you ready to stop the self-sabotage and create the life you desire? Well, in order for that to happen, you need to break free from the bad beliefs that are holding your success hostage. You need to optimize the stress by turning it into extra energy for success. And those hurtful habits? Well, we need to give that pain a purpose for progress. Welcome to Stop the Self-Sabotage and Create the Life You Desire podcast. What was it about you when you were a kid that wasn't okay? What was deemed unacceptable about you? I'll give you an example. How I looked did not fit. My hair was too fuzzy, my nose was too big, I was too skinny, and I had a flat chest. There was nothing about me that was physically appealing in my family. So my looks were not okay. Now, I've worked with other clients to where their need for independence wasn't okay. The mom worked a lot, and when the mom wasn't working, she was drinking. So Miss M had to stay home to be able to take care of the younger siblings, actually become the surrogate mom at a very, very young age. So the fact that she wanted to go out and explore what it is that she enjoyed about life, well, it wasn't okay. And then there was Mr. D. Mr. D was highly competitive, but he was raised in a family to where it was, teamwork, and we all pull together, and no one needs to outshine anybody else. So the fact that he wanted to discover that edge and find out how far he could push things before failure, well, it wasn't okay. For him to want to be in sports, it wasn't okay, because he would be a superstar and shine, and no, everybody needed to be at the same level. So what about you? What is it that you needed to experience about yourself, about your world, and it wasn't okay? Because what happens when we go through that experience is that we make ourselves wrong in the area of worth. And we have to find a way to overcompensate because we're overdrawn, that there's something that is shameful about us. And let me explain the difference between shame and guilt. Guilt is very good. Thank you for the Jewish women that have been in my life that taught me that lesson, because guilt says we have violated a value that's important to us. So when we experience guilt, we go, okay, is it that the action was wrong because it violated the value, or does that value no longer fit my life and I need to see about upgrading values? Shame, on the other hand, says that we're flawed. We're flawed, we're broken, and we need to be fixed. And whenever we go through that experience around our self-worth, our very powerful mind, known as the subconscious, says, we have to be able to find a way to where we can take the scales and tip them in our favor. It's known as the law of reciprocity. The law of reciprocity says when someone does something nice for us, if we're dysfunctional, we'll want to do something nice back, but we want to do it more than what they did for us so that we're actually coming out on the better end, a little bit more superior because we did more than what they did. So we can overcompensate because of our shame. And we overcompensate by giving ourselves away. The title of today is, Are You Writing Emotional Checks for Bad Heart Debts That Are Not Yours? Because when you took on your worth as being less than, and when you decided that there was something you should be ashamed of, That wasn't based on you and your brilliance. That was based on what someone else needed you to be for them to be okay. You know, I told you about growing up in a household with how I looked wasn't okay. So that created what's known as an imprint. An imprint is a filter. It is a system. It is a set of values and rules that we will put in place that says this is what we're supposed to focus on, this is how we're supposed to feel about it, and these are the actions we're supposed to take. I was raised in a family where plastic surgery and the adults in my environment started in the 60s because someone deemed in the family that they didn't look the way they were supposed to. I had a sibling at one point that whenever I met her again, after many years of being distanced apart, I didn't recognize her because she had had so much plastic surgery. Because we were shamed that we did not look the way we were supposed to. Now, for some people, it's around money. Others, it might be their intelligence. For someone else, their worth can be wrapped up in servitude. But whatever it was, you were found to be less than. You were lacking. Okay? Well, the subconscious mind cannot handle being in a hole. It has to create a story and give that whole meaning that will then, as I said before, in a dysfunctional way, come out superior. And so this is when you've learned to maladapt, to give others what they need. You turn into a chameleon, always trying to meet the needs of somebody else. Because maybe if you do that enough, what's going to happen is that they will see that you really are worthy, and they'll give you some of the leftover scraps that they have in order for you to feel better about yourself. But it never happens because you've learned to be that chameleon. You've learned to be an imposter and fill what you think someone else will need. Well, when you're in that type of giving situation, you don't attract other givers because it's really dysfunctional. It's maladaptive. What you attract are takers. So in my own life, I learned to give around the area of money as a way to try to adapt for the fact that I didn't look okay. So whenever I was in high school, I had a boyfriend that emptied out my bank account. Oh, that's okay. Maybe if I give him enough, he'll finally deem me lovable. It didn't work that way, as you can already imagine. My next significant other relationship that lasted 16, 17 years was somebody sitting on the couch with their own dysfunction and self-medicating through alcohol and drugs while I went out and did the best I could in supporting my family because I was overcompensating. I was writing bad checks to try to heal their emotional wound because maybe if I could heal them, then they'd make it okay for me. And that continued for many years. In fact, I was in my late 30s before I discovered the industry that I'm in now. And imprints, as I said earlier, those imprints, which are going to be the focus, the feelings, what you value, and then the actions that you take. And the imprint is all about your less than. And if that imprint is strong enough, then you create an aspect or a part of your personality that freezes in time that's always less than. I know my less than part of me is about 12 to 13 years old. And I know when she shows up in my life, when she gets triggered, even today, because she'll show up and she will try to buy other people's love and acceptance. That's how she learned how to overcompensate. I wonder about you. Where is your shame wound? And what other area of your life did you use to try to overcompensate for it? To try to make others feel okay so maybe you'd get some of the scraps that they had left over? There's a 4-part process that I train all new hypnotists in. It's called Reveal, Release, Relearn, Rejoice. And in hypnosis, what I do is I reveal that part of their personality that accepted that original imprint. And then from there, we release that younger them from the agreement. What part of you needs to be released from something that you can never fulfill anyway? You can never overcompensate enough to earn your worth. The only way that that can be experienced is by allowing that younger you, and it might be a child, it might be a teenager, it might be a young adult. There was one woman I worked with where we discovered 2 parts of her personality that were overcompensating in self-worth. It was when she was in her early 20s and went away to college, and then in her early 30s when she got married. But both of them was she had to fit into what someone else wanted her to be to have friends. That was overcompensating for her wound. Okay. So we reveal that part, then we release them from that original imprint, because that younger you holds a bevy of brilliance, energy and enthusiasm and passion for life, but who they were was perverted down to pain. When you let them go from having to try to continue to operate in a world in a way that is going to do nothing but bring them continued pain, oh my gosh, this huge weight is lifted off of your heart. And all of a sudden now things seem to be flowing, whether it might be the insight or the awareness or the actions, that life can actually be enjoyable. But then there's the other step, relearn. So reveal, release, relearn. We have to give them an upgraded experience in your life, because that younger you is still going to want to show up. So we want to let them know that they're supposed to show up and what they're the very best at. Where is their focus of brilliance? For that younger me, it was caring about people. It wasn't buying their love. It was genuinely wanting to be with them. And when you come from that area, then you find that you no longer have to dumb yourself down or hold yourself back so others don't feel bad. Instead, you discover that you being your very best actually triggers them at their best. But there's one more step in the relearn. The law of polarity says everything is created as a whole. So if you have a wounded part of you, you also have a wealthy part of you. This wealthy part of you is the mature, wise part that knows exactly who you need to be in order to have the health, the money, the relationships, the career, and tapping in to that dormant potential. Some people call it inner advisor, higher self, soul self. But it's the you that is ready to bloom and blossom, but couldn't because the younger you with the original wound was in that space, trying to overcompensate in a way that was maladaptive and would only bring more pain. And then rejoice. You put together a plan where you continue to pat yourself on the back for 91 days for continuing to move forward in a way that all parts of you are pulling together for you to be absolutely magnificent. Because the only way we continue on a path of progress is whenever we get rewarded for that progress. And it takes 91 days for an identity upgrade to happen. It's the same way with pain. The only reason why you continue with things that hold you back in a very painful way is because there's a reward for it. And I can hear you saying, going, no, there is nothing phenomenal. There is nothing that feels good about being stuck and struggling like this. Yeah, there is. You get to feel superior. You get to feel superior for how you've martyred yourself, for how you continue to save others, for how you hold yourself back, for how you overcome all the drama in your life. But yet you will continue to seek out people, places, and things to fulfill that original imprint. So what checks are you writing that overdraw your emotional bank account because you're trying to be what someone else needs you to be instead of being who you really are? It's not your fault. You were conditioned and programmed for that, but you must take 100% responsibility for moving yourself forward. That's what I'm here to assist you with. But you can at least begin to get the steps, the starting steps by going, what did I overcompensate for? What was deemed unacceptable about me? How have I been ashamed of that? You know, I rock my curls. The shape of my body, I'm absolutely in love with, no matter what size I might be. Because this is who I am. This is an expression of what I've got going on the inside. How can I tell myself that that's wrong when no matter what, I've done the best I could with what I've had? Now, what about you? What needs to take place for you? Okay. The reason why you need assistance with this is because the original imprint was created by a person or a group of people, which means you can't read enough books, you can't watch enough videos, and you can't listen to enough podcasts to be able to get out of it. You actually need to use the assistance of someone else. The first person caused the pain. The second person will create the experience for the progress. See, your progress is not up to me. What's up to me is I create the situation for you to bloom and blossom into who you are. But what you do with that situation is going to be up to you. All right. If you feel like I'm the one that might be able to assist you with this, then reach out to me, 636-699-7791. And until we get together again, get your head and your heart out of someone else's pain and pull it back into loving who you really are. She or he is waiting for you to finally tell them they're okay. Go above and beyond that and let them know they're not just okay. They're magnificent and brilliant. And when you do that, you'll find that your light automatically, normally and naturally, begins to grow brighter. So until we get together again, blessings on you and your brilliance.